Well, I've been digging around with this for a little bit, so yeah, we got a TwoSun Tuesday here. This is a TS334. It's quite a new model from NightMorning Design here. Somebody was actually curious about this thing in particular, which kind of prompted me to retry to do a video like this. Yeah, so they were debating whether or not to pick this up or, as they said in their comment, a mini banter from Civivi. And well, I can say between those two, this one's going to be larger. This is basically the size of the Wii's more full-size banter, because both that Wii banter and this one have 2.99-inch blades, so just under 3 inches, whereas the baby banter is 2.4, so it's a bit smaller. So I guess, go ahead and keep that in mind there. This thing is obviously going to be thicker in the pocket because it's contoured micarta rather than the flat slab G10 that's going on there. This is also in 14C28N rather than Nitro V for the Civivi baby banter. Or I guess they do also S35VN and or 20CV for the normal Wii banter. But yeah, also it doesn't sound all that right, but maybe I'm wrong on that. The spec that I pulled up for the Civivi baby banter is 4.5 ounces, which is kind of crazy because this is 4.25 ounces. So I don't know exactly where all that extra weight would be coming from. And the Wii version is like 2.4 ounces. So I don't know. I'm a little confused on that, but that was the specs I found from NAFs. So yeah, I guess there's that stuff. So I'll go ahead and talk about this thing. First off, it's got kind of their Meh-carta, but this one is polished up quite highly, so you don't get a whole huge amount of texture. And it actually, in this particular case, reminds me a bit more of Boker's burlap micarta that they'll do usually on some of their more German manufactured models than ones that they do elsewhere. But yeah, it just kind of has that same kind of texture and polish and things going on with it. So in this particular case, I don't mind it all that much. It's still not my absolute favorite micarta by any stretch of the imagination. But it still really doesn't bother me. Yeah, this thing is quite a budget knife. If you can find it a lot of places, it's generally in that $40 to $50 range. I think White Mountain Knives, when they've had it listed, which was probably up for a few seconds, was $45. I think I got this one a little bit earlier, I think, and paid maybe $51 on eBay, but I'm sure that price is going down. But okay, yeah, so yeah, nice spear pointy kind of blade going on. Like I said, just a hair under 3 inches. It's 2.993 is what I measured on my calipers there. What I find really, really nice about that is the way that they have this thing kind of situated. The handle actually works for it being a 3-inch knife, that I can comfortably get all 4 of my fingers all up on this thing. And I'm really happy for that. There's plenty of knives that I've taken a look at, heck, even recently, that I had troubles with. Let's see if I can find the one in particular that I am thinking of off the top of my head. Where are my Civivis? There we are. Okay, yeah, we got the Civivi Cogent here, which, believe it or not, it's a 3.4, 3.54, one of those two, kind of blade length sort of things going on there. And I'm not comfortable with my last finger on there because the handle swells out so much at the front. I consider basically from about here up, you can't really use that for your fingers, so you lose that much of the handle. This one obviously doesn't have that problem. It's not a button lock, but Okay, but the blade, pretty darn good. I did modify this one. It's one of many where the blade sticks up way too far out of the liners there. I fixed this up. I recently showed a video of me doing that to the TS334. This one I did basically around the whole knife blade there. I didn't just leave a flat section. So this took just a little bit longer, and I had to resharpen absolutely all of the blade again. But hey, at least now, super happy with it in the hand, and I don't have any problems with it being closed. And yeah, even that pocket clip even seems to work decently well on this particular model. I can feel it, but it's not really digging into anything that a lot of the other times this particular clip on other models does. So this thing does have some things in there that I wasn't really super expecting when I first got it in there. For one, we got their titanium pivot collars on there. Pretty interesting. You can also see that this one, the pivot collar, doesn't actually have a T8 on the other side of it. I haven't seen that on too many of them. It's not here nor there, but it is a little bit different. Another thing that I will show you in a bit is this has multi-row bearings in it. So it's another one of those more budget knives that has recently come out from TwoSun that has that. Let's see if I can't find it. Here we are. Here's the other one that I talked about, the TS321. This one also has the multi-row ceramic bearings in there. This one's a G10, and well, you can see it's quite a bit larger of a knife in general. So yes, I did shorten up that blade so it doesn't stick up really, really close to the liners there, and that did kind of thicken out the blade before the shoulder. It was very, very nice and slicey. Now it feels fairly average, but hey, it still cuts great, so I don't really care, and I'm much more safe that way. We can see we also have nested liners in here. Both sides are nested. I definitely like that. It also, in these particular things here, really gets you a lot thicker piece of micarta, so it is a bit more structurally rigid than if they used a little thinner piece of this particular stuff here. But yeah, works great for that, that standard saber grip to it. I find it even more nice and comfortable in that hammer grip position. You can do the reverse hammer grip if you want. I have plenty of room to actually wrap my thumb around there, so I can get a nice purchase for the poking. And it does have a bit up front here for you to choke up, if that's your thing. It's not large, but because you don't have a giant triangle sticking out here from a flipper tab, I do find that very easy to use and not quite as nerve-wracking as some of the finger choils that'll go up to straight edge. So overall, I really do enjoy a lot of the ergonomics on this thing. The inside is a little bit interesting on this one, though, so we will go ahead and do that. I will, before I do that, though, stupid me, I should probably do some comparisons here. So here we are against the Spyderco PM2. I don't have a banter or a mini banter, so unfortunately I can't do that. But yeah, we can see it's fairly darn close in size. It's a little taller, obviously, and wider than the K-Bar Dozier folding hunter, but in that same kind of realm there. And yeah, thinner, but a little bit longer, both in handle and blade length for the 940. And I probably don't need to look at a lot of the larger options, but why not? I'll go ahead and pull out the Boker Kalashnikov 74. And yeah, that seems to be, I mean, the blade is definitely longer in general, but the handle's right around the same there. So yes, now we will go ahead and take it apart. As you can see, this is one of their very newer ones where they started actually printing the model number on the blade. I do appreciate that for a lot of people who don't honestly know exactly which ones are which. But yeah. Oh, also the micarta clip in here is actually milled fairly deep down on there, which you're going to see here in a moment. Which is T8. There we go. If I can actually get my screwdriver in there. So yeah, we can see it's got a nice deep channel in there. It's not reversible, which they probably could have easily done, but oh well. And those screws do screw nicely into the steel liners in here, so that's quite nice for the structural rigidity. It's not going to have the same kind of problems that the TS334 had. But this one is a little bit more involved in its taking apartness. So yeah, we got the pivot out and the pocket screws out on that side. And that's not enough. We have this center screw here, which it's T6. They've done that on a couple of them. They usually do it when they're holding micarta or carbon fiber onto liners of something. But yeah, in that case, we can then pop that off, and we see hidden screw right here. This is a T8, so we can go ahead and pop this guy off as well. I will keep it separate because I do think it is a little bit different size than a lot of the rest of things that are going on, and then we'll just have the knife explode everywhere. So, all right, here we are on the inside, and yeah, you can see we got that multi-row bearings going on here. We also have this G10 backspacer. As far as I know, they haven't done a micarta backspacer for anything. You know, a lot of times they will end up using a more brown colored G10 to, or olive drab or something like that to try to match those. This one, as you can see here, it'll sit down in here with these two pins. And it's got an extra hole there. And that's pretty much because I do believe that this is reused from another model to save on some manufacturing stuff. I certainly understand that. That's probably also why it's black and not a little bit more color matching. It doesn't bother me, but it might bother you. So I figured I'd throw that out there. Yeah, and this pivot is a little interesting. It's got a little D notch, not fully D shaped, but enough to give you a nice purchase, especially because the other side of this doesn't have a screw hole for it. So that's kind of nice. What is a little strange on this guy here is this piece right here, which is a stop pin, I guess. Only a stop pin when it's closed. And that worries me a little bit less because, as you can see here, it's half on the steel and half on the micarta. So it's not really load bearing. If this was used as the stop pin when you're flicking the knife open, that would be kind of end of the road. No, do not buy this knife. But in this particular case, the Thumbstuds are acting as a stop pin when it's open, and it's not engaged with this at all when it's open. So this is only there for it to basically rest on the spine of the blade. You can see this little line going on right around here. Hopefully the light will show that. So in that particular case, it's fine. You know, it might not be my absolute favorite, but you know, it's at least structurally sound enough. But yeah, we can stick both of these pins back in that side here. We will see that this thing actually does have a little bit of a downside, but it's only really if you're doing something like this, taking the whole damn knife apart, which, you know, some people never do, and you know, others like me are really excited to do that. Yeah, you can see this guy with it fully open. It's nowhere near that. Yeah. And also showed that has kind of the chamfered sort of things going on there, so it looks a little bit like a Lego head rather than a straight pin. And yeah, that's a little strange. I don't necessarily know exactly why they went with that. Probably they didn't want to make a larger hole for it or something. I don't know. Yep, they also did not skeletonize the liners at all, which they definitely could have, but this knife is definitely built down to a price, for sure. So that was something that they ended up using for, cost cutting, and I can understand that. I would actually like it a little bit to just be a little bit lighter in general. This thing's not super heavy. It's, what did I say? Yeah, 4¼ ounces or 120.5 grams. So that's not too bad. But it could be a lot better. But, okay, so there is that. So yes, when you're putting this thing back together, it is kind of a pain in the butt because this thing has those little funky areas there instead of it just being a straight pin. It does present some difficulties when you're trying to put it back together, and if those things don't actually match up correctly before you start screwing everything back in, then the whole knife doesn't fit together correctly and it feels really weird. It still works, it still locks up perfectly fine, but it definitely feels like something's wrong. This one's T6 right over here. So yeah, to be able to get a super nice action, you do kind of have to play around with it just a little bit. I seem to have gotten this in a nice spot here. No play whatsoever there. We do have a blade thickness on this of 3.7 millimeters, which if you are debating between this and a Civivi, and or the Wee Banter, either of those, they tend to use thinner blade stock, so it would probably be somewhere around 2.8 to 3.0 millimeters. So it'll be a little bit thinner, which might make it just a little tiny bit slicier. That and this guy, as you can see, it's got a large swedge up top here, so it's not a full flat grind. So if you're looking for just the absolute keenest slicing edge, then the Civivi is probably going to beat this thing. But I don't know, in a lot of the other ways, I really do appreciate this one more. Obviously, it fits my hand, which I know the Baby Banter doesn't, and the Banter I've held once. Yeah, I didn't really have it for a huge amount of time. I was just playing around with a friend's, and it's okay if I use that finger choil in front, but I'm usually not a huge fan of using those if I don't have to. But yeah, if it's all put together and everything, blade centering, super nice. So yeah, this was built a little bit differently and better than I thought it would be for the price that it is. Obviously, this is one of TwoSun's more budget models. Yeah. But, they are trickling down some of those nicer amenities, like the titanium pivot collars that you can anodize whatever color you want. And also multi-row bearings, which really does give you a nice mixed advantage. They do feel like bearings, so it is super nice and smooth, but they feel a little more structurally rigid, like you would get out of something with phosphor bronze washers, like this Spyderco PM2, for instance. So it is kind of interesting. They don't necessarily help the action on a lot of knives, but they do help with just the nice structural solid feeling to it. So there's that. And I guess as a last thing, I think I'd mentioned it earlier, but yeah, the contoured handles on here really does feel nice in the hand. It's a little thicker. It's 0.57 inches, so it is a little bit thicker than like your Spyderco PM2, just at the outside swells there, since these guys are going to be flat, along with the Banters. But for me in particular, I like that. So there you go. There's kind of my thoughts, and well, I guess this is basically a full review, so I will consider it as such. But oh, also one thing that I've learned after the fact of a lot of stuff is you see how it actually is there a bit. You can front flip this thing, no problem. It really doesn't look like you should be able to, but it is set up that works quite nicely. So hey, you got a couple of different deployment options. You got the thumb stud on both sides, so you can reverse flick that if you would feel like. But yeah, you can also front flip this thing rather reliably. So neat. But all right, well, I will put this pocket clip on right after the video, but I'll go ahead and give my little send off. So as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.